This past quarter, we focused on stewardship. Now, I know usually when we hear stewardship, we think of money, but this past quarter made us realize that stewardship is really about being a respectful manager of resources that are given to you. How to manage things that are in your possession, how to manage things that are in your control. And I'm not good with money. Can I talk to you like family? I'm not good with money. And sometimes when I read that parable about the talents, I take comfort in that, because when you notice in that parable, they were not all given the same amount. And in life, we don't always have the same amount in things. Some were born with a silver spoon in their mouth, some had a trust fund waiting for them, and some had to grind from the ground up with nothing in their pockets to where they are today. So I used to take comfort in that parable, but another thing I have learned to be a faithful steward of is time. Now, you see, the difference with time is that there are no excuses, because all of us have 24 hours in a day. All of us have 7 days in a week. The rich don't have 25 hours in a day, and the poor don't have 3 days in a week. All of us have the same amount of time. So it challenged me a little bit to be a better steward and manager of time. I was looking back at a point in my career, and I noticed that at any given point in time, I was involved in at least 5 to 6 meetings a day. I calculated and I noticed I was spending at least 50 hours in meetings during a 40-hour week. There were all sorts of meetings: strategy meetings, coaching meetings, update meetings, disciplinary meetings, onboarding meetings, off-boarding meetings, or we call those separation meetings, weekly meetings, monthly meetings, quarterly meetings, year-end meetings. We had a meeting about the meeting to follow up on the meeting with the subcommittee that met to discuss the meeting that we met about. I spent my whole week in meetings, and they varied in length. 5-minute meetings, 3-hour meetings. I'm not talking about the church board meeting or the elders meetings. Don't look at me like that. But we were having meetings back to back to back. And these meetings were happening everywhere. It was a breakfast meeting, a lunch meeting. We would have these lunches on site in the cafeteria. Sometimes we would go out to a restaurant. We were having all sorts of meetings: office meetings, hallway meetings, parking lot meetings, let's go for a walk meeting. You're having a phone meeting, a video conference meeting. There was the water cooler meeting. There was the bathroom meetings. I don't know if any of you have ever had a bathroom meeting. Oh, it's just me that's been sitting in a stall minding my own business, and suddenly it turns into a meeting with the guy on the other side, isn't it? Maybe I shouldn't wear distinctive shoes because they can kind of see it's Arnold in there. But I was finding that my day was being spent in meetings. And as a result, my other tasks were beginning to suffer. So when I would meet with my boss for reviews, they would say, "You're doing great here, but you're not doing so well here. You haven't done this, you haven't done that." And I was noticing that all these meetings were taking up my time. I was failing to fulfill the entire scope of what my employer had hired me to do. I was not fulfilling some of my primary professional purposes. So what did I do? I took training. I took courses on how to have productive meetings, how to manage meetings, how to be more engaged and more engaging in meetings, how to set clear goals, how to produce precise agendas, and how to have meaningful minutes from all these meetings, how to have brainstorming techniques, how to produce proper reports, how to delegate, how to do reviews, how to interpret KPIs. All of that I trained and I learned to do. And guess what happens? I got a little bit back of the time that I was spending in meetings. I spent less times in meetings, but I was still spending too much time in meetings because all my other tasks were still suffering. So I did what any normal person would do. I started working extra hours. The things that I didn't get to accomplish in my day because I was stuck in meetings, I started doing those things before my shift started or after my shift ended. And when I did that, I almost caught up on some of the tasks I was missing. But guess what happened? Other things in my life started to fail. My relationships started falling behind. My social life started falling behind. My health started falling behind. And it was getting to a point where I felt I couldn't win. I couldn't get past this thing. And it got to a point where I was just like, you know what? I give up. I can't do this anymore. And my coach said to me one day in a counseling session, Arnold, must you really attend all these meetings? Beloved, if I tell you the light bulb went off in my head because it hit me, I had to learn the power of saying no. I see some of you are looking at me strange. Work with me here. I'm going somewhere with this. So I started, as scary as it was, I started screening meeting invites and declining meeting invites. I don't know if any of you have ever had the joy of receiving an email invite at work to a meeting and you hit decline. It feels divine. If you've been where I've been. So I started asking difficult questions like, I know this is important to you, but is it relevant to me? I started asking questions like, can this be sent as an email to everybody instead of us meeting to get this update? I asked difficult questions like, do I add value to this project at this stage? Maybe I can come in later, maybe I can come in earlier, but I don't need to sit through the entire thing. Shilando, I asked that question, can I delegate this? Because there is no point in having a team of 20 people that can do something and find myself being the only one doing it all the time. Am I speaking to some ministry leaders in this church? We came up with a catchphrase. It says, no agenda, no attender. So if you sent an invite to a meeting that didn't have an agenda, I would not attend because I like birthday surprise parties. I don't like surprise meetings. And this time, my productivity increased. My relationships improved. My health got better. My goals started to be met. I'm not boasting, I'm testifying, but doors started opening for me. It was then that I got to understand that anything that distracts you from your primary assignment is an enemy to your purpose and your progress. I'll say that again in case you didn't hear me the first time. Anything that distracts you from your primary assignment is an enemy of purpose and progress. You see, the ego in me was so, it was so impressed by the fact that I was being invited to some of these big meetings and sitting with all these fancy people. The ego in me was being stroked and massaged that I didn't notice that my primary purpose was beginning to lose due to the time that I was wasting in these places. I didn't realize that my fundamental objectives were being neglected, and I learned how to manage my time and prioritize my paramount and principal goals and objectives.